Eh, Creo que en la primera parte es la introducción que el coordinador, entiendo que está Francisco Barbieri, coordinador de GRULAC, para dar las palabras iniciales y luego continúo explicando el proceso.
Hola, ¿me
Hola,
escuchan?
sí,
Perfecto, buen día a todos. No me quedó del todo claro, ¿tengo que hablar should I speak in English or Spanish?
ya. Francisco, yo creo que podés hablar en español y si ponen abajo una línea que dice CC, es ahí subtítulos, va a traducción simultánea.
Bueno, 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 bienvenidos a todos. Mi nombre es Francisco Barbieri, creo que algunos me conocen, soy el punto focal regional para GRULAC. Y con Valentina Sierra, que es la miembro del buró, bueno, somos los dos representantes de GRULAC que participamos en las reuniones del buró. Y bueno, simplemente voy a mencionar algunas cuestiones antes de dar el espacio para que tanto Judith como Kay comiencen con este briefing. En primer lugar, bueno, más allá de darles de vuelta la bienvenida, quería informarles que esta sesión informativa es el resultado del debate mantenido en la reunión del buró del ICCM5 que tuvo lugar hace unas semanas, más específicamente el 22 y 23 de junio del 2023 en Ginebra. Y la idea es que este briefing apoye la preparación de este IP 4.3, es decir, la reanudación de la cuarta reunión del proceso de intersecciones, que se celebrará en Bonn los días 23 y 24 de septiembre de 2023. En ese sentido, me gustaría destacar que los principales objetivos de este briefing es, en primer lugar, aclarar a los participantes el proceso de preparación de los documentos, de estos non-papers, que las co-facilitadoras van a presentar para que se logre un consenso en unos temas particulares donde aún no se ha logrado el consenso, y también dar una oportunidad para que los que así lo deseen, puedan realizar sus comentarios o compartir sus ideas con respecto a este proceso. También quisiera decir que este tipo de reunión informativa, este tipo de briefing se está realizando también para los demás grupos regionales, para los 5 otros grupos regionales. Y la idea es que después de la presentación habrá espacio para hacer preguntas. Asimismo, simplemente aclarar que la reunión está siendo grabada. Y por último, simplemente me gustaría agradecer a Judith y a Kay bueno, para estar disponibles y tomarse tiempo de su agenda para realizar este briefing. Así que sin ocupar más tiempo, le quisiera dar la palabra, bueno, tanto a Judith como a Kay para que comiencen con el briefing. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Francisco. Como bien lo referenciabas. A ver, le doy la palabra a Rafael.
Yes, just to let you know that as you may be able to see that the translations, the automatic translation is very, very poor and bad. And perhaps we could recommend to continue the meeting perhaps in English, because there are some English-speaking participants. And unfortunately, we planned this meeting to be in English. Back to you, Judith.
Okay, let's go to the next slide then. Okay, as Francisco have mentioned, these non-papers that we are elaborating with Kay together with the Secretariat and with the collaboration of the co-facilitators of the thematic groups during IP 4.2. They were a way forward that were consulted with the Bureau meeting that took place in June. The idea of these non-papers is that as we did a revision of the outcomes of Nairobi, we see that there were some parts of the text that need further elaboration, for example, on targets, finance, and capacity building. There are many brackets that sometimes it's quite difficult to understand the ideas or the policy behind those paragraphs. So Kay and I, together with the Secretariat and with the collaboration of the co-facilitators, as I said earlier, try to see where are the possible way forward on some paragraphs that were not agreed during our previous sections. So the aim of this non-paper is not changing substantively the text that came from IP 4.2, but we are trying to remove repetition, to streamline the narrative, to identify areas where a strategic option might deliver the greatest impact, and consider whether the current targets framework will achieve these strategic objectives and vision. These non-papers are designed to facilitate the achievement of consensus at IP 4.3, trying to offer a clear and concise understanding of the text while refining the existing text for improved comprehension and effectiveness. As you may know, we have only 2 days for our deliberations at IP 4.3 in Bonn. Maybe we do not have time to arrange different thematic groups. We need to see what we have from Nairobi and what we are looking for in the text before ICCM5. When the text of the recommendations and the sets of resolutions come into ICCM5, they need to come in the 6 UN languages. That is why we anticipate to have these non-papers in order to help reaching consensus during these 2 days of deliberations. And we hope that these 2 previous days of regional meetings could make all the negotiations between regions, between different positions, to see how to advance and have our recommendations as best as possible. So next slide. The timeline. for these consultations. During this, the week before and today, we finalized the first virtual briefings on the process for preparing these non-papers. In early September, we are having another set of virtual briefings to present the non-paper. So we think that by mid-August or 11th or mid-August, we will have the non-papers finished. With this non-paper finished, the intent is to publish them on the website and give you enough time to go along these non-papers and have a briefing in early September before coming to Bonn. In September 21st and 22nd, we will have these in-person regional meetings in Germany, and there we will have another opportunity to see if these non-papers are a good tool to reach to consensus or not. So with that, I will give you space for your questions. Kay and I are willing to answer all of the questions that you need to post. Thank you. If somebody needs me to explain, do a quick summary in Spanish, I could do it.
¿Puedo preguntar? ¿Me escuchan?
Ana, por favor, adelante.
Não, como eu não estuve em las reuniões IP4, tiveram alguns colegas de Ministérios de Saúde, quisera conhecer quais são os pontos mais importantes, por exemplo, em emerging policy issues, caso los tenha. Gracias.
Anna, with the non-papers that we are releasing are specifically on targets, financial considerations, and capacity building. There are another sets of recommendations in the documents that include these issues that you are mentioning and the process for them, but we are not touching on this part of the documents. It will go for IP 4.3 as it is from Nairobi.
Okay, thank you.
Judith?
Sí, no,
Yeah. I would like to make a question about mainly about chemical and waste. If you know how is it up to now, what does it say about chemical and waste? Because it's very important to include waste in the line with the language of SDG target 12.4. And also to achieve the environmentally sound management of chemical and all the way throughout their life cycle. Do you know anything about how is it going to be, or how is it up to now, this topic?
Okay, thank you, Maria from Rapal. Please identify yourself because sometimes it's quite difficult for me to see in the screen who is asking for the floor. But after my answer to Maria, I will give the floor to Fernando Bejarano. Regarding the chemicals and waste issue, in our non-papers, we are, for consistency, we are dealing with chemicals and waste as a package. We are not trying to define the chemicals and waste as we find it quite difficult. It would take a lot of time during the IP if we start defining waste. And we were also trying to see how the waste, of course, we are not addressed the whole, the waste as a whole, because as it is, this Beyond 2020 is a framework, and this framework includes all what has been done in waste under other multilateral agreements. We are not dealing with the waste that is already included in the Basel Convention, for example. But the issue here is try to determine in the indicators or in the programs of work to address different wastes that we could address under this framework.
Okay,
I hope,
thanks.
I hope that it suits you. And then Fernando, please.
Sí, good morning, everyone. My name is Fernando Bejarano from Mexico, from the RAPAM, that's the Pesticide Action Network in Mexico, and also I am the hub for IPEN in Latin America. Through IPEN participation in the Bureau, some of us, we have a briefing also from the Bureau representative from IPEN, and I want to talk very briefly about the main 6 points that we are concerned. If you allow me, Judith.
Please go ahead. That is why we are making these briefings, to see what are the sticking points that you can find in our way to on.
Yeah, well, first of all, the first point is that even though SAICOM still is not in a high political visibility in most of the countries in the region, I think for civil society it's still very important to maintain SAICOM as a general framework on chemical and waste, especially for Latin America. And I think that's very important to keep in mind. And we expect political ambition from the government's also participation, and because the problems that doesn't delete, the problems are increasing. The triple global crisis that is expressed in the United Nations at biodiversity loss, climate change, and chemical pollution is increasing. So we hope that SAICOM has this ambition. In the second point, in terms of scope, we think that the scope should include waste, all kind of waste. I agree with you that won't be specifically a repetition of Basel Convention, but all the rest of the waste, I think, has to be in line with the language of Sustainable Development Goal Target 12.4, saying that achieve the environmental self-management of chemicals and all waste through their life cycle. I think that should be included in the scope. The third point is about the ambition. As I mentioned, there are principles that guide policy that I think we should keep in mind. like the precautionary principle, the right to know, the polluters pay principle, and other political measures like the extended producer responsibility that are crucial for address this life cycle. And also some of these principles has been part of the judiciary resolutions in the conflicts and struggles for communities who are affected by pollution. I think in terms of the 4 point, in terms of principles and commitments relevant to SAICOM, I think we have a United Nations Global Assembly resolution about the right to a healthy environment. That's a good progress. Also, the progress on biodiversity, targeting to reduce by half the overall risk posed by pesticides and highly hazardous chemicals. Also, I think is relevant to mention. And the principle for safe working environment from ILO. So all these consensus and agreements in other frameworks, I think, should be incorporated to express the political will to put the protection of health and environment and be sustainable development. In terms of the issues of concern, there are we think and we hope that all the issues of concerns will retain. I don't think that in any of these issues should some of them probably led is the most progress, but the others like highly hazardous pesticides that we are most working in or in Mexico and our colleagues in Latin America, I think still is not full a lot of new ideas of progress for the substitution of highly hazardous pesticides for agroecological initiatives has been taking place in Mexico as consequence of the glyphosate phase out and the programs to support national agroecology in small and medium farmers. I think in this regards, we expect that the GRULAC, and I hope that the governments will take seriously the proposal from the Africa region to create a highly hazardous pesticides alliance. I think this alliance will stimulate the interchange of information among our regions and will help to find the best regulatory practices for a just transition, for recognizing that the actual model of intensification of agriculture is not sustainable, that the externalization of costs on environment and health are increasing, and that is affecting vulnerable population and still creates the response of communities. So I think that finally, our point of finance, that's a very hard point, as we know. We has been supporting what other governments, and I hope it's a consensus to have a new and adequate and predictable sustainable finance that's are essential for achieving the targets and the objectives agree. And but we know that, and we think that industry involvement has to be increased, especially considering that their profits are increasing. And we have a paper from IPEN that a very minimal tax globally can increase that. In any case, I think that a new adequate and predictable fund is necessary. So I want to know if has been discussed as a region the point of the Africa. That's a question. The proposal from Africa to create a highly hazardous species that has been discussed among the governments in the region is that, and I suggest that that we can invite the African region to have a dialogue as a GRULAC with the region so they can elaborate more what is behind this idea, and then we can, I think you can understand more the advantages of that. So it's a question about finance and the proposal to invite this. So I hope that my other colleagues from IPEN in the present can be complement if I miss some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Regarding the highly hazardous pesticides that you're telling, if you remember, there are in the ICCM5, there will be more topics that only our recommendations of the Beyond 2020 for chemicals and waste. So maybe you can think of this highly hazardous pesticide alliance partnership or any other arrangement that you can find to be considered in a specific resolution or part of other resolutions that are coming for ICCM5. And regarding the finance, you know that there is one of our non-papers would address the issue of finance. We have done a similar briefing with the Africa region. What can I tell you that we heard from them is to have that they need to see a financial mechanism. They only spoke about the matchmaking facility that ICCA and Iran were proposing, and they thought that this matchmaking facility will not be it will be part of the financial mechanism, but not the financial mechanism for cycling. That's two issues that I can share with you by now. Regarding if you are having conversations with the Africa region, I'll give the floor to Francisco Valentina to say something about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. Good morning, good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you very much, Judith, for this presentation. It's very important to have to hear also your thoughts on the work you have been doing and to be well prepared to the IP 4.3 and ICCM 5. Regarding the interactions with the African group and possible collaborations, indeed, we had some discussions with the African group representatives to the Bureau on the last days of June, and indeed we are planning to have some interactions. For instance, we can invite them to our regional consultation in Bonn, the first or the second day of the regional consultation, so we can actually see all the different issues that we can have some alignment, and we can like identify the convergence points. And three of them that we identified were, well, not only the financial aspects, but also the issues regarding highly hazardous pesticides and also human rights, because they are the African group is willing also to introduce in the new framework the human right to a safe, clean, and sustainable environment. So I think that's also a very good news, and we can work together on that matters and also in other issues that we could identify in our regional meeting. But yes, for sure we will have that space of discussion with them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Valentina. As you know, on around the 11th of August, we are planning to have this briefing. This briefing around the non-papers. Okay. If by 11th of August, it could be excellent if you can arrange. I don't know if the Secretariat could help in facilitating an online consultation among GRULAC and Africa region to see how you can interact as regions and try to solve as many issues as you can before reaching Bonn, because in Bonn we will have only 2 days of regional meetings and 2 days of IP 4.3 to try to clear the text as much as possible. So it would be helpful if you can arrange it before the 11th of August, or maybe between the release of the non-papers and the briefing of the non-papers. Thank you.
Can I take the floor?
Yes.
Thank you, Judith. Well, thank you also for that complimentary information. We will discuss it with the African group, so we can identify when exactly that could happen, because it's also with the summer in the middle, and so a very busy schedule on all the chemical cluster. But we will try to do it before, and if not, we will, as we discussed, we will have some space there in the regional meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Valentina. I can see if anybody else is requesting for the floor.
Nelson, perhaps?
Oh, Nelson. I see Nelson. Nelson, please, from Brazil.
Thank you very much, dear Judith. And also thanks to Francisco and Valentina for the coordination, and also for the briefing itself. I have one question about the high-level declaration. So I'm curious about how the document, how the process of negotiating the document will go about. So I know that the Secretariat has asked for comments. I also noticed that before the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken, the UK and Colombia were working on this one text of a declaration. So will that text serve as basis? I'm just wondering about the process, how to negotiate the high-level declaration.
Thank you, Nelson. I will give the floor to the Secretariat, because that is something that is in the ICCM5 presidency, not under the IP4 process.
Yes, thank you, Judith. The request for input was the initiative of the ICCM5 presidency. And at this stage, we don't have, unfortunately, more details on the process with regards to the considerations of the high-level declaration. But I guess that through the Bureau meeting and in the coming weeks, we will have more details once I think the presidency will have an opportunity to assess the wealth of inputs that have been provided, and will provide us all with more details on how to proceed with the high-level declaration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think that the hand of Nelson is a legacy one. I see now Francisco.
Thank you very much, Judith. I just wanted to make some a short comment in regards to the high-level declaration. I think that besides the inputs that they asked for, the comments that we comments requests that we have gotten like 1 or 2 months ago, they're very important. But I think it's also very important that we can see a proposed text beforehand of a high-level declaration. I think it's important that we are not presented with something close, but something that we can see it with time and do eventually do some additional comments. I think this would be very, very important for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Francisco. I think that your message will be delivered through the Secretariat to the Presidency. The briefing session is about the non-papers that we are producing, and for sure these papers will be available while in advance before the regional meetings, so you can see, study, and think about the possible ways forward when we reach one. I cannot see any further hands. If the Secretariat see anybody else.
Just with regards to the presentations, Judith, there was some in the chat box, some request on this. The presentations will be presented on our website right after the regional briefings. And I think that Nelson is requesting for the floor, unless it is a legacy hand.
Thank you very much. No, I just wanted to also say that it'll be important to allow for enough time for delegations to negotiate the high-level declaration. We are a bit worried about that because we're going to be focused on closing the text for the future framework, and that's going to be a lot of work already. And then it's just that if we are not allowed enough time to also negotiate the high-level declaration, we are afraid that we might come up with something not very substantive. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Nelson. Points well taken. If there is no further request for the floor, I would like to thank you, all of you, for your time dedicated to this briefing. I hope to see you in September in our next briefing with our non-papers just released, and to have a fruitful discussion around. So thank you very much. Thank you, the Secretariat, also for hosting, organizing, and helping us with all these difficult tasks. See you.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.